sounds as though we were making one up. I don't mean that. But the voice comes from not reaching for overall words, but observing what you do. And you're never going to please everybody. I have to tell you just one story. There was Marion County was teaching a class to adults, and she had this man who I think he was in his 60s or so. He never cooked, and he was suddenly a widower. And he listened, and then he said, "Well, I find the trouble with recipes is the way they're written. I don't understand the language." He said, "Toss the onions in a bowl." So I put the bowl at the opposite end of the kitchen. Started tossing the onions. And he said, "I thought maybe they were supposed to be aerated." I told Julia that story, and she said, "Never let that man in the kitchen again." So, but you see, it is a dilemma. And you're also writing for absolute beginners and experienced cooks. So you have to work out strategies, and one of the things that I often suggest is to put some of that general basic information in a box, so you don't have to repeat it every recipe. So you're finding your own way, but you have to really listen to what you're doing.
What are tips? I know that many of us, at least the newspaper business, started in other fields. Like I know Tommy was a business writer, and you know, we found our way to food. And so you've had 30 years of journalism training, which is just facts. You don't really have that voice. So what tips do you give us to bring out that voice in ourselves?
Well, first, the awareness of that something's missing, that you're not really giving the reader who's off somewhere, and you're not enabling that person to cook. So you have to sort of look at your own prose critically and be more analytical. It's tough because newspapers are so short of space, but so I'd say keep to the shorter, the simpler recipes, and rather than the 3 herbs that I like to quote, but it does happen so often. And observe what you're doing and try to use language that you would use if you were talking to somebody instead of overreaching. Does that somehow?
Yeah. Do you think the internet then is a great hope because you can write forever on the internet?
Yes. Yes and no. Because also, part of good writing is logical thinking. And one of the things I find, with all kinds of books, biographies, that we contract for a book of 80,000 pages, and it comes in words, it comes in at 200,000, because it is so easy just to spill into that machine, and there isn't that orderly thinking before you start to write. The old typewriter, you didn't want to have to retype that page 4 times. So that's good and bad. I think that people should do a little more thinking before they dump it into the machine. But I'm old-fashioned.
Having analyzed some of our work, are there certain themes you see, tips that you can give on the things you've analyzed here this week?
Well, one thing that I've talked to a number of you about, I think we should get rid of this constant anxiety about sinfully rich, or is it good for us? If it tastes delicious, it's good for you. And as Judith always said, eat moderate portions, don't eat between meals, don't reach for seconds, and you'll eat just fine. I've also found, I'm working on a book now about the pleasures of cooking for one. And I've found that, for instance, if I bought myself a little tenderloin of pork, I would do it about 3 ways during the week and not repeat myself. But I also take a certain pleasure in setting aside what I'm going to have the next day. And then you don't want to overeat because you're you're treating yourself, you're not depriving. But I hate this, hate is too strong a word, but I get tired of this, this constant guilt. And maybe that would go away with a little depression, because be grateful for what we eat and just use common sense. That's one thing that I feel. And